Aloha, Hope Chapel. Great to see you guys again. We are in chapter 7 this week of 1 Corinthians. And this chapter is full of very interesting and relevant issues. And as we see in chapter 7, Paul starts out by saying, "Now, for the matters you wrote about." So when Paul wrote letters, he didn't just receive reports from those who had visited churches and relayed messages to him about how those churches were doing, but those messengers for Paul or Peter or whoever it was that was writing a letter, they also would bring letters to them and with questions, their own reports, concerns, issues that they're dealing with. So now as we are reading in this letter, we find in chapter 7 that Paul goes to a place where he says, okay, now I'm not just dealing about the reports I'm hearing from those who were there and reporting back to me what's going on in your church, but now I am addressing those issues that you wrote about. And in this chapter, there are a lot of issues. And so we see they're talking about married life as it relates to sexual relations in married life, the unmarried life, widows, virgins, and really it's really all about the how to live a life that is free of concern. And really, Paul's bottom line in this chapter is you can see in verses 17, verse 20, and 24. And he's basically saying this: listen, stay in the state in which you were called. If you were married, when God called you to salvation, in terms of that's what he's referring to, then stay married. If you were not married, when God called you, then stay unmarried and focus fully on the Lord. He said that he wants their lives to be free of concern. And so another thing that's interesting about this chapter, not only is he wanting them to understand, just stay focused, be content, stay in the stage that you are in, that God called you in. That's kind of the bottom line, but there's obviously more details there. Another thing that's interesting about this chapter is it gives us an idea, an overarching idea of the principle of freedom within Christianity. For example, and you read in verse 10, "To the married I give this command, not I, but the Lord." And then in verse 12, he says, "To the rest I say this, I, not the Lord." So wait a minute, isn't this God's word? Aren't all of his words inspired by God? Yes. But see, God in his love and his grace and his mercy, he wants us to be free. But that freedom does not mean that we can do whatever we want. That freedom, just like you can see behind me, has boundaries, like a fence. Yet, there, as you read in chapter 7, there is some freedom to choose within the boundaries of God's will. Like you can go out that gate right there, right? So God gives some opportunities, but ultimately he wants us to really be focused upon him. For example, what in the world does he mean when he says, "What I mean, brothers and sisters, is that the time is short. From now on, those who have wives should live as if they had none." Wait, what? But I'm married. How do I live as if I had no wife? Or how do I live as if I had no husband? Ultimately, he just wants you as individuals to seek him first. As much as it is possible, no matter what stage of life you are in, stay focused on God. And by staying focused on God as an individual and even as a couple, you will be content. You will be free from concern. I hope you enjoyed this chapter as I have, and all the details that I believe are going to involve some very fun discussion. God bless you guys. Have a great week in chapter 7.